In the spring of 1991, Chief Gary Potts led a hopeful group from Bear Island in Temagami to the Supreme Court of Canada. It was the first hearing there of a land claim case in 15 years.
Look pretty sharp, Gary.
Yes, indeed.
For an old trapper.
But they couldn't buy off with a case of goof. And they couldn't buy the Teme Augama Anishnabai off with 30 million either.
Price is going up.
When we're going through this, it's important that we're remembering, like we're on Bear Island. And making it just like home, you know. Because we're bringing some of our home with us. And that's very important for all of us. And I put our sweet grass in here, some sage from Bear Island, and the tobacco that was given to us by the people from Guelph as well to involve some way in our ceremonies.
The beating of the drum when it comes from the people is like a prayer to the Creator, like a baby cries like to its mother. It's our cry like to our Creator.
The Teme Augama Anishnabi's attachment to the land is rooted in 6,000 years of history. It's that identification with the land that fueled their determination to go to court. Elders, like Second Chief Rita O'Sullivan, want this territory protected for future generations.
We're at the Obabaka Lake, and this rock is called the Shumis and the Kukumis. They represent the grandmother and the grandfather. Charlotte Pishabo said that when she came up with her parents years ago, that they always passed right close to this rock, and her father would offer tobacco on the way in so that they would have a good trapping season and a good winter. This is a tree that I tied for young Walter Becker. We were coming into Walter's cabin. He was building his cabin at that time. And I tied this on the way in because I had never been anywhere with young Walter before. And years ago, they always, when we went somewhere new, to a different lake or a different portage, they always tied a tree for us like that, tied us to the land. I never tied a tree for my children, but I've tied them for my grandchildren.
This is a historic day for the Teme Augama Anishnabai. We've been trying since 1877 to get a treaty for our people, and finally, after years of refusal by the first provincial government, now the federal government, we are able to bring our case to the Supreme Court of Canada. I feel personally great satisfaction that I've been able to hold my health to see it through, and satisfaction at the Teme Augama Anishnabai. We've had confidence in this process, and over the 18-year period did not take any backward steps at all. We're moving forward.
Since '73, we've worked on it since the caution was laid. And the court cases that started in North Bay, and then we were sued to the Supreme Court in Toronto, so the government sued us and took us there, and we went there, and it was a long grind down there. We were over a year in court down there. And then we lost that case, and then we went back for the appeal, and we lost that. And then you began to wonder if there was justice in this country. Father, we give you thanks for the blessings of this day. And we ask your continued blessings on our families and our homes and our lands. We ask your Holy Spirit to guide us and be with us this day and with our lawyers. Great.
Great.
Walter Becker was born on this site 77 years ago. Although his land now lies protected within the Wendobbin Stewardship Authority, modern forestry has already changed the landscape he has known and lived with all his life.
They just cut all my trees down, that's for one thing. They just wiped it all out, all this timber around here. And now this, and that took all the, like when it was shaded with them great big pines, nothing. Now there is nothing, you would say, no water, nothing up there. It's all dried up. You gotta have shade for animals, you know. They can't be sitting right out in the open sun there all day. That's not good for forests.
Increased clear-cutting in Temagami led the Teme Augama Anishnabai to block logging roads in 1989.
We don't need all the roads that's in the bush today. And it makes such a mess when they make roads. It's terrible. They're big roads like this that are destroying everything in sight while they're making them. And as soon as the road goes in, the erosion starts. If they had been allowed to cut, we wouldn't have seen a red pine here. And we were tired of many roads going all over, and it was time we had to stop the roads.
You are interfering with the lawful use of the property of Carmen Construction and also the property of Her Majesty the Queen in the right of the province of Ontario. You are instructed to remove yourselves. Failure to do so will result in your arrest and charges under the Criminal Code of Canada.
For the record, Sergeant Leclerc, it is my duty to inform you that this is not the property of Carmen Construction. It is not the property of the Ontario government. It is the property of the Teme Augama Anishnabai, has been for 6,000 years, and will be for at least another 6,000 years, if the Creator helps us out and the Creator keeps our land strong.
Sergeant Mackay, please activate your arrest teams.
I mean, we didn't do anything bad. All we did was sit on the road. We didn't go out there to destroy land or destroy machinery or anything like that. We just went out there to make known that we didn't want them to put that road in.
For many years, I was so afraid that it would be lost because of personal quibbles, pettinesses, jealousies, that those kind of things would take people away from the larger picture, the strengths, the inherent strength that we have in our connection with the land. That fear was eliminated when our people stood on the Red Squirrel Road. 4 generations of people, Teme Augama, were there. And the arrest the next day, when we had people being arrested from 12 years old right up into their 70s. When I seen that, I knew my work was finished to a very large degree. Never again, never again would the Teme Augama Anishnabai be on the verge of extinction.
Maybe we did break the law, but when I went out there and they told me I would be charged with mischief, I didn't think that was a criminal offense. Because I think the first time I heard the word mischief was a forester's wife talking about her little child being a mischief. And I never thought for 1 minute that it was a criminal offense to commit mischief. So I went on the road, and I'm not sorry I went on the road.
Although they had slowed logging in Temagami, the people faced a daunting task at the Supreme Court in Ottawa. Their lawyer, Ross Murray, had to convince the judges to overturn 2 earlier decisions. Lower courts had held that the Temagami Indians were under treaty and had no outstanding Aboriginal rights.
That our Aboriginal rights, whatever they may be, have not been extinguished. This is a case where the Canadian government publicly and repeatedly stated to its highest officers for over 100 years that the Temagami were a distinct band who were missed at the Robinson-Huron Treaty. Ontario stopped fishing and hunting. They drove the Temagami out of where they were living, literally through flood and fire, and they refused to let them cut wood or fence for cattle or the rest of it. Finally, at the end, when it got down to them charging rent on the shacks they were in on Bear Island, which is the last place they had to go, it stopped, because the federal government bought Bear Island from the province. How you use all of that to show that the Indians abandoned their country, or to show that they adhered to the treaty, in my submission is conceptually very difficult to bring to mind. If that is the law, I suppose that is the law. In my submission, it is morally nauseating.
The risks that we are taking by going to court are nowhere near the level of risks that we would have been taken by remaining silent and not utilizing whatever form we had for our voice to be heard. Should the Supreme Court of Canada decide completely against us, what has actually changed for us is nothing.
So down the Red Squirrel Road, about 45-minute drive, so it shouldn't take too long this morning.
Okay. Probably. This is exactly the kind of thing that has all of our people very concerned, Dave, especially the elders. This is unacceptable, all these small trees that were left here. And that basically the idea is you have to treat the forest so that you at all times have intact the mature forest and all components in the forest.
I have always been a person that's enjoyed working with public, but the ministry's direction has been much heavier in the last 10 years to get public involvement in dealing with the band is just one more step.
We're not part of the public, and we are the indigenous people of this land. This is our homeland. We're not the public, like we're the land itself, basically. And we have a government-to-government relationship with the province of Ontario, and I think that the bureaucracy is having a really hard time understanding that. We aren't part of the public. We are part of the management of the land.
What we're finding is that they realize, and the governments have realized, they've run into something that they can't control. They've run into a spirit that rises from the Canadian soil through human beings that have been here for thousands of years that they could not kill. They could kill some of our people, they could suppress it, but they could not kill the spirit of the indigenous peoples of Canada. And the Canadian people have nothing to fear from that.
Mary, what you see here as opposed to the other area where it was clear-cut, this is shelterwood, which means that we were taking out about half the number of mature trees and leaving half the trees. And those trees that are left will provide seed and protection to the ground conditions and provide wildlife habitat at the same time.
It's a great improvement over past practices of clear cutting. It's a marked improvement. I'd like to have an opportunity sometime, to bring our elders here, particularly the elders whose land this hunting grounds this would have been, and to see how they feel about this. And that would be a real good indication, I think, for us if we're on the right track.
The province of Ontario's role in Temagami is contradictory. On the one hand, Queen's Park began a real dialogue with the Teme Augama Anishnabai, but at the same time, provincial lawyers continue to argue before the Supreme Court that the tribe has no special rights to the territory.
I don't believe it's a contradiction at all. I think that the case that Ontario has taken forward in the Supreme Court, relied upon the evidence. And people believe that there's going to be a win-lose situation. Our view is that even in the case where we win, there are still constitutionally protected Aboriginal and treaty rights, and there's the litigation and negotiation, and clearly I'm on the negotiation side, and that's where I am trying to find a resolution.
This is it. About 10 o'clock this morning when we heard the news. I don't think very much of it. It's a letdown. But then again, we've handled a lot of letdowns and come back.
The tribe lost before the Supreme Court. The highest court in the land agreed someone had signed the Robinson-Huron Treaty on behalf of the Teme Augama Anishnabai. The court also held that the tribe's acceptance of a 1 square mile federal reserve on Bear Island constituted legal adherence to that treaty.
The fact that there is not a legal title of laws based from Great Britain does not take away from the fact that there's a human title, that we are a living title to our lands, and that because of the fact that we've occupied it for thousands of years and have no other place on earth to call our homeland. Well, I want you to let the drummers know what the court said. They overturned one thing. Justice Steele said that we hadn't occupied our areas long enough to have any Aboriginal rights in our land areas. And they've overturned him on that. They said, yes, we did occupy this area long enough to have Aboriginal title rights to it. There's no question about that. They went on to say that the factual findings at lower court levels they couldn't interfere with. They assessed them and they weren't going to interfere with them. What they found was that because some of our people had accepted monies, $4 a year from the government, that meant that we had surrendered it.
It will sadden all Aboriginal people in Canada, because I think they were hoping that the recognition of our land was very important, not only to us, but to everybody. And to say that someone else signed our treaty or we adhered to a treaty by getting $4, I think is outrageous. I never believed that the Supreme Court would uphold that. But that wasn't to be. And I think that we're all going to have to work a lot harder. All Native people now, all Aboriginal people.
The court failed in its obligation to society to provide a clear understanding of the history of how Canada has evolved and how Ontario has evolved as well. And we've held together over 115 years in the face of long adversity and hard adversity, and that is what we must continue to do, because the only time you're defeated is when you accept defeat. The Teme Augama Anishnabai are not defeated.